Okay, welcome back for part 4. Okay, first question people may be asking, just like you did at the first, why are the paintings upside down? And the reason I did that, because I did it when you weren't here, and you walked in and you're like, most of us, most of the time, see what we think, not what's in front of us. And as we work on a piece, a painting or a sculpture or anything, over time we can start to become blind to it. And so we slip back into seeing what we think, not what's in front of us. By flipping the canvas upside down for a bit and contemplating what's actually going on, it interrupts that. It forces us to see it again with fresh eyes. So that's what's going on here. But today, so this is part 4, for a variety of reasons, I want to keep us moving forward with this. How to put it? I want to keep this moving forward at an enjoyable pace, so we don't get bogged down and start going, oh, how long have I been working on this? Mm-hmm. Am I going to spend the rest of my life on this one thing? Yeah. So today's objective, the only thing I want to do today is finish the underpainting. With that in mind, it's like you get 2 hours. Okay. Whatever it is at the end of that is what it's going to be. So that might help you to make priorities and editorialize. I can live with this. That needs my time. Whatever. Now the good news is, even after we call the underpainting done, after we put the flesh tone glaze on it, there are still lots of adjustments that can be made in the next step. So it's not like you'll have to live with it just as it is forever. In fact, it will need touch up. When we put on the flesh tint glaze, the brightest tones are going to get a bit dimmer. The darkest tones are going to get a bit lighter. The flesh tint kind of squeezes things towards the middle, and so those poles are going to have to be reestablished anyway. But all we're going to do today is get that as dialed in as it's going to be, and that's our whole job for today. The reason I want to get that done today is also because we'll need to give the underpainting, say, about a week to 10 days, 2 weeks maybe, to really firm up so that it can take the flesh tint glaze on top of it without getting soft again and blending with it. It's meant to be a tint that goes over it. We don't want to rub it off. We don't want it to blend. We want the flesh tint to be able to lay on top and be nice and clear and that. And so get that dialed in, and then we can spend the next couple of lessons messing with the hair, the background, getting the clothing set, and then we'll be able to do the flesh tint, and then the lesson after that we'll be able to start tweaking that and dialing or finishing it off. We are probably a lot closer to having a finished painting than you realize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is like, it may not look like it. It may look like it was 40%. It's actually more like 75% there. So that's our job for today. So I gave you the same brushes as I'm going to use.
Okay.
That's kind of arbitrary, but maybe this is another useful lesson tidbit. It's kind of a life lesson. Art has, like, okay, just take oil painting. Mm-hmm. There are literally hundreds of different colors. And if you count all the different sizes and shapes, there are hundreds of brushes you can choose. And if we let ourselves, we could spend our whole time making art, choosing the next tool to play with. And so there's a lot of value in imposing restrictions on yourself and you're saying, that's it. I'm going to use these 5 colors and these 3 brushes for this painting, and that's it. And you just get on with it. And you can make different selections for the next one, but imposing restrictions on yourself is very helpful. So. I'm sure you've noticed by now that I have a very organized and methodical way of working to get from A to B. And one of the things that informs that it's part of the order of operations is something that one of my professors said when I was at school. He said, the first thing people see is the last thing you did. Now, I don't know if that's perfectly true. I don't know how you would establish that or verify that, but based on the first comments that people make when they see my work, it very possibly could be true. I work as if it is, and so I organize the order of operations so that the last thing I do ends up being the first thing I want people to see. I said in the previous lesson, the further along you get, the more you're kind of sneaking up on the final result that you're looking for. And what seem like small changes up close, where it might even be kind of hard to see that you did anything, can still be very big changes when seen from further away.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm making small adjustments and then I'm stepping back to see what it did. I did give you a hard photograph to work from. But, so the light is coming from, it's mostly top down and straight on, but it's slightly to the left. So it'll be a little bit brighter to the left of the canvas, to the left side of his nose, etc. But also remember, so we're creating an illusion on a flat thing, right?
Mm.
And so the light will hit the cheek at the top edge, because the cheek has this kind of surface, but also there, words are failing me. So like when you do this cheek, you'll get some brightness here where this part of the cheek faces the light source more directly, but this side of the cheek is moving around the corner, right? This side of the sausage, that's what they call this fleshy bit above the eye. The sausage and the brow is moving around the corner. The eyelids are moving around the shape of the eyeball, so this side of the eyelid is kind of oblique to the light source, whereas this side is moving into more directly facing it, and then this side is starting to move away from it, and then it curves into the corner of the eye, and so the wet pink bit in the corner of the eye and the plane of the corner of the eye turns back towards the light. But that's the challenge. You have to remember. It's like, okay, it's a flat thing, and I'm trying to make a flat thing look like a round thing in space, and so you have to remember all the bits that move around the corner.
Mm.
So like this side of the nose is more directly facing the light source than this side. This wing of the nose is more directly facing the light than this one. The eyelids wrap around a ball, and so this side of the eyelid, if I put an even white highlight around the whole thing, it becomes flat, because in reality the eyelid is moving around the roundness of the eye, and so this side is moving around the corner. If I gave you something scary to do, would you be willing?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. You're making very teeny tiny, very dainty marks with the teeny tiny brush that I gave you, so it's partly my doing. But remember what I said last time about using a brush that's uncomfortably big?
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have a zone of white in the forehead there, and across the sausage. You can see it's kind of a sweeping mark across the sausage.
Yes.
And the cheek. So if I gave you this brush, you could keep making the dainty marks, but you'll get more purchase out of it. And it'll also give you enough more tool to work with. Do you mind if I put a marker or two down? Okay, so if you just kind of, as a placeholder, like, okay, there's a bit of this going on here, and I like flats
Awesome.
as well as, because I can use them very sharp broad edge and kind of, so like on the nose, instead of doing this, say, okay, it's most brightest up there, but it's going to get broader and softer as it goes down, and the end of the nose is going to do something like that. The cheeks are going to have a little bit of that, and then more of that. There are just these, you'll begin to see it with practice, that there are just these spots that are always going to grab the form. Like in a really abstract way, you could just, the light's coming like this, you could go straight down for the nose, straight across to the brow, boxy thing for the forehead, and the cheeks are just going to get this check mark kind of thing, and you just hit the zones because it's always going to be like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
There's a little dip usually right there. I know I'm slightly taking over your painting. I apologize.
Looks way better for it.
What's that?
Looks way better for it.
When you're a maker, there's so many things you can do. It's so cool. Whether it's woodworking or metalworking or sewing or, these things stop being mysterious and magical. You start looking at a pile of wood or a pile of metal or bolts of fabric, and you're like, oh, I know what I can do with that. It's like the cracking the code, the world unlocks, and it's really, really cool. Still sewing, but different application. I love to talk about business with people because I love to encourage people, and I love seeing people succeed. And so I'll often ask people, if money were no object, what would you like to wake up and do every day? Because what I've noticed is that very few people get their plan A, their ideal. Nearly everybody gets plan B, almost as if it's inevitable. And I look at them like, okay, why? Why does hardly anybody get plan A, but almost everybody gets plan B? Is it because people want plan A but doubt they can have it? But have full confidence that plan B is like, well, it's plan B. Obviously, that's possible. Is it an attitude thing? Is it a lack of creativity? Because nearly anything you want to do is possible if, and it's a great big if, but if you do it properly, if you go about it properly. Which is one of the reasons I'm giving your sister Amanda lessons at her age. She's already way better than I was at her age. But I didn't have anybody to teach me at her age. And so if she wants to pursue this and she takes advantage of the lessons and carries on with it, she could be better than I am. She could be better than everybody. That's up to her. Maybe in a few years she decides she doesn't want to do this anymore. That's okay too. But I love the weird examples I've discovered over time for businesses that sound crazy but worked. For instance, back to sewing. I don't know if she's still in business, but about 15 or 20 years ago, she made the national news. There was a woman in the Midwest somewhere with a successful business that was making beanbag chairs in the shape of life-sized cows.
Whoa.
Yeah, whoa. Who loves cows enough to want a life-sized cow beanbag chair in their home? And yet there were enough people that found what she did because she positioned herself correctly. She got on the national news. But enough people said, that is so cool, I want one. And the price was right, and people were willing to pay it. And she had a going business doing this utterly bonkers thing. Because she did it properly, she did it the right way. Or she got lucky. I mean, maybe she made the news and had a, 5 or 10 great years and didn't run the business properly and is out of business. I don't know what happened next, but that's the big if part. This is like, if you do it properly. But she had a line of people who wanted that. There's another man who's got a thriving business making, did you ever see the Batman TV show from the 1960s? Bits run into it here and there. Not really, that's fine. The Batmobile from that TV series is one of the most popular Batmobile designs ever. There's a man somewhere in Georgia. His whole business is creating those for car collectors. Creating the Adam West Batman Batmobile.
Wow.
And he's got a waiting list of multimillionaires years out.
Dang, really?
So whatever bonkers thing that you're passionate about doing, if people got serious sooner about going for it and learning how to do it properly, I think way more people could have plan A. Demonstrate a little bit?
Yeah.
I'll do it over here, which will get covered later.
Okay.
So, you see how it runs out as it starts to lose some of the paint. Well, this is also starting to get very hair-like, right?
Yes.
So, instead of starting at the edge of the skin and the hair, if you started in the middle of the hair mass and then pulled towards the skin back and forth, at the ends of those strokes, you'd get something that sets you up for later for that transition between hair and skin. Does that make sense? So you started here right on that hairline. If you started a little further away from it, something to do with the scrubber, I'm afraid, but if you start a little further away, you can set yourself up for the next thing. Spot to play with, play as you would like. If you pull all the way into the hair mass and blend the shadows, you'll get one of those soft lost edges I've talked about. If he leaves some of this light edge, you'll also get a bit of reflected light lighting up the side of his beard, which will help just delineate it. So you can play in two different directions on that edge.
I feel like nose was the one thing I like almost consistently in mine.
Yeah.
Not the whole time, but I like noses.
You like noses.
I like drawing them.
Painter of noses. It'll be, it's like Thomas Kincaid was the painter of light. You'll be the painter of noses. There was what was it called? I think it was called The Horse's Mouth. Movie I saw in art, they showed us in art school, starring Alec Guinness, who was the first actor to play Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, yeah.
He played an artist who was obsessed with making monumental paintings of feet. And he was always in he was always borrowing money and he never paid it back. He was always in debt and he was always looking for his breakthrough. And the final scene is like he's been thrown out of his flat and all of his patrons are coming after him to get repaid, and he's running away and hiding, and he sees the side of an ocean liner. And he looks at it and sees this enormous mural of a foot. It's just, yeah, I think it was called The Horse's Mouth. I'd have to look that up. But it was one of those 1960s comedy things.
That would be funny.
It was interesting. But he was, living for his art, suffering for his art. It was funny. He just lied to everybody and owed everybody money, and yet it was all in service of this vision that he couldn't control. I don't know if it was a fetish or an obsession or what, but it was just his thing.
Must be.
And he was like, whatever I have to do, whatever I have to say, I must do this thing. And that's what being an artist is a lot. There's a lot of that in being an artist. It's just like, whether it's monumental paintings of feet or, giant sculptures made of paper cups and monkey poo. Whatever thing it is, if you lie awake at night dreaming of doing that thing, you're getting a memo from somewhere. And if you are that drawn to doing that thing, there are people out there who will be drawn to having it.
Oh, for sure.
They're getting the same memo. There might be 15 of them in the whole world, depending on what you have in mind. But
they'll be there.
You're getting something from somewhere.